So preparing for phone interview. So for phone interview, you have to prepare a few things. First thing, the platform. So phone interview is called phone interview. Basically, it can be over phone or also it can be through the Zoom, Skype, or any other online platform. So you have to have a good cell phone. Good cell phone means make sure if anybody calls you, they can reach you properly at any time. Then create a Skype ID. Create a professional Skype ID, and sometimes the interviewer the platform they choose on based on the Skype for business as well. So important notes on cell phone: make sure your cell phone is always reachable. If you need to change your carrier, you change your carrier. Keep the ringtone volume up during these days so you don't miss any phone call. Sometimes the recruiter they will try only once. After that, they will not call you back if you don't respond. Use microphone, earphone for better hearing and voice. If you need to get a microphone, you should arrange it before your interview. For Skype video setup, use a professional Skype ID. For example, first name dot last name. So you should not have some unprofessional or that is not decent, those type of Skype ID. Use mic and headphones if needed. Set up lighting, shadow, background, and surrounding professionally. Watch some online tutorials. So those are important. Though probably nobody will say those directly about the impact of this setup, but subconsciously, of course, there will be a great impact of your appearance and your background and the surrounding setup. Better to keep the eye level a bit higher than the camera. Perhaps it may provide some mental advantages. So though it is always recommended your eye level should be equal to the camera, the height, I would prefer you go a bit higher, not too high, a bit higher than the camera. So once you look a bit down, and there is sometimes there can be a bit advantage, mental advantage. So you are not if you were too low to the camera, your height, eye level, that is really very negative. So dress well professionally. Be bold, clear, and loud. Do not forget to greet at the beginning and at the end. And of course, you prepare your lighting and the setup and surrounding, and will be well dressed, and then try with somebody. So try with your friend a mock interview, and then see how it goes. If after that you need to fix your setup, then do it before interview. So faculty position interview questions are very different from industrial job interviews. So here the questions are not to judge your technical knowledge. So once you are selected for interview, that means the search committee they already rely on your credentials, and already they rely on your background knowledge. So now they are just trying to see you are fit with their team or not. So in general, nobody asks about technical knowledge. They ask, but mainly the main focus is about some other questions, other behavioral questions, teaching questions, research and service questions related to those areas. So you have to prepare very well about those, and of course you know your research topic very well. So if they have any questions about research, so it should not be a big problem for you to answer your research area. So mostly all interviews follow a common format or a question bank. So you need to know about those format and question bank. What are those questions? How to answer for those? You need to know those questions and proper answers for those questions. Duration roughly 15 to 20 minutes. We should not go over half an hour in general, and it can be as short as 10 minutes as well. So after the interview you will have the opportunity to ask questions. So after interviews, once you answer your questions, interviewers will ask you to ask some questions if you have. Of course you will ask. Don't say I don't have any questions. So you should ask questions. Yeah, always at least a couple of questions. So the questions the interviewers will ask you, you can categorize in 4 areas roughly: behavioral, teaching, research, and service type questions. Read your submitted documents. So before the interview day, you should read the application advertisement and also your submitted documents, so you know when they ask questions from research statement, teaching is philosophy, or CV, so you are consistent, and also you know what you are applying for, and you know what the requirements for the job. Note down the selling points. That means, suppose if they are looking for machine learning, so if you have any project you have done or paper you have done, then highlight those things. If they are looking for to develop a course in artificial intelligence, so you highlight your background in artificial intelligence, and you tell how will you develop a course in that area. So point out what requirements matches with your teaching and research experiences. Read the department website and university website very well. That is a good study you should do prior to your interview. So go to the department website, know about the department, know about the professor, know about the students, right? And also know about that university as well, and point out the selling points. If you find something that you can highlight from your CV that goes with the department information and requirements, the goal and motto, then you point out those selling points. Yeah, so read your documents that you have submitted, read the advertisement carefully, then figure out the selling points and write those down, and prepare how you will talk about those points. Also read the department and university website and figure out if you can extract few selling points or not. Also note down what classes they offer from their website, what classes are not offered currently but you can develop in future. So that will be your selling point, right? What is the research focus of the department? If there are similarities with your research, that is good. We mention that. And if your research is not in that area, also highlight that, so there is lacking the research in that area, so I can contribute in that field. Are there graduate students in that department? If there is no graduate student, then you don't mention, yeah, I will develop this graduate course. That's pointless, right? What graduate courses you can offer if there is graduate student? Know about the faculty members and their research. Know about interviewers, so know about the interviewers, what they are, what is their background, and also know about the faculty members and what is their research. And if you are interested, it's good to read their works too, especially the interviewers. You read their works as well. Interview preparation, continuing. So you must prepare for the interview questions, write down your answers and practice. So I will provide you a list of questions. Most of the questions they will ask mainly from this area. If directly not from those questions, could be just slightly changed and the same thing they're asking in a different language, but more or less these are the questions they will be asking for. The questions may seem simple and harmless, but be aware, each question is very important and prepare very well. Yeah, these questions it may they're not asking you, challenging your technical background or your depth and the knowledge. Very simple questions, but the way you are answering that is very critical. Though the questions are simple, the way you will apply the answer, that has to be something that will stand you out from the other candidates. So some questions are listed here. Why do you apply for our department or university? Very common questions and very important to apply. So you figure out the requirements from the application, right? Also, once you read their department website, right, then you will find out from some selling points for you. Mention those and mention why you are motivated to that department based on the job requirement and the department website information. What do you consider as your strongest attribute? Well, you should do research on you and figure out what is your strongest attribute and try to make it relevant to their job requirement and their university department motto and goal. What do you consider as your weakest aspect? Again, prepare very well for this, but never say anything negative about you. You represent something that is weakest for you, but that is a potential that has a great potential in future. For example, if you say something fact negative, for example, yeah, I don't like to take a class in the morning, that will be very negative, right? Or for say I don't want governmental services, so you should not, or maybe I can sometimes I feel slack or sometimes lazy. You should not mention anything negative, rather you say something that will, yeah, actually you will say something positive that you want to do but you are not doing right now because you don't have much enough scope or opportunity to apply. So what do you think is the biggest challenge as a professor? Again, work on this and don't say anything negative about you, but say something that you enjoy and you think it is challenge, and that's why you want to work on this and you're interested in the teaching. What is your opinion regarding teaching and research? Which one is more important? This is a tricky question. So if it is a research position, you highlight on research. If it is purely teaching, you should not focus too much on research. But if it is the balance for 50% load is on teaching or 60% load is on teaching, rest load is on research, in that case of course you will put a bit more importance on teaching and then research. How well do you think you can fit into a department? Well, again, it is related to why do you apply in our department, right? So you know the professors and their research from their website, different research. Also know about the students, there is graduate student or not, what kind of research they are doing, also what courses they are lacking, right? Based on this information and your potential that have, you can contribute in that, and also the positive points you have extracted from their website. Mention answer, prepare your answer based on those information. So all of those answers can be different for each universities. So once you prepare for the interview, go through all of those questions separately for each different interview. What can you bring to our department? Why are you special? Again, how you can contribute. When you have disagreement with somebody, how do you solve the problem? Well, do some research on this question, and again, don't express something negative, and always try to uh, provide the positive answer. If even there is something negative, you look at this from the positive perspective. Tell us about your professional experience. So basically we'll talk about the research and teaching experience. What group size do you like initially and after 5 years? So for the research universities, they can handle, so you should have your research plan for short term and long term. You should have short term and long term research plan. Professional goals: where do you want to be in your career in 5 years or 10 years? Again, so you should have short term and long term research goals. So questions related to teaching: tell us your teaching philosophy. So that will be consistent with your teaching statement. So that's why you need to read your documents you have submitted, and also read the job requirement and their requirement website. So teaching philosophy, if something is contradicting to the requirements website, avoid that, and whatever you say, that should be consistent with your the teaching statement you have submitted. Describe your teaching experience. So both graduate and undergraduate teaching experience you should share. How do you treat undergraduate and graduate students? What is the difference? So when you teach, so what's the difference you make in your teaching methodology, your style, once you deal with the graduate students and undergraduate students? What percentage of load of teaching, research and service you prefer? Again, you give the answer based on their requirement. So yeah, how much teaching they are actually looking for, how much research load they are really actually looking for. So what courses should be included in our curriculum? So once you go to their website and see what courses they offer, if you see that is not offered yet, but that you have that background to develop that course, mention those course names. What courses you want to design, what conferences and journals you prefer to attend or publish papers, what courses can you prefer to teach. Okay, so what courses you prefer to teach or what courses you can teach. So both graduate and undergraduate level. Which courses you do want to teach? Again, so what courses should be included curriculum, based on that this answer can be, and also this will be based on their job requirement, and your teaching experience. What is your weakness and strength in teaching? Don't say anything negative. How do you handle difficult or tough students? There can be professionals in your department. How do you handle this kind of students? So those questions you should do some research and write down your answers and practice very well. So basically all of those in your questions you should um, write down, and some of the questions you should mark. Those answers will differ for each uh, university. All right. So research related questions: describe your research. So you should have two types of answer you should practice. One is short version and long version. Short version will be 1-2 minutes, and long version maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So write down those answers and practice. What is your research plan? Again, your answer should have two versions, short and long, and that will be consistent with your research statement. How do you integrate research into teaching? How do you involve students into your research? What is your target funding sources? So you should have the list of possible funding sources. How do you collaborate? You say, how do you want to collaborate with the faculty members within the department, also within that university in other departments, also collaboration with other faculty members from other universities, also collaboration with the industry. So there can be different type and of collaboration. You should have preparation for all of those different types of collaboration and mention those. What do you think about interdisciplinary research? What kind of startup package do you need to achieve your goal? So this answer will vary from your position and university type. So what kind of startup package? So you have to do a bit research, and you need to plan in prior and estimate. So how many graduate students you need, or how many equipments you want, and how many computers. So based on your research goal and the university size and facilities and rank, you have to come up with those ideas. So you can discuss with your professors and the experts and the mentors about finding those answers. How do you research? So this question sometimes being asked, so you have to have the plan, ask the answer based on your research methodology. So now after the questions they will ask, you will have some time to ask a couple of questions. So make sure you always ask at least 2-3 questions. So make sure you don't ask too in detail questions, or that questions make them uncomfortable or push them too much. Or in the phone interview you ask some questions, those have some that show some insights, and those questions will not just for asking, so that will really give you some information and then you can use it. So questions should not be too complex. Also question should not be just a simple question that has basically no intrinsic value. So some questions those could be good for phone interviews. You can ask, those are teaching, research and service load ratios. So you can ask, What is the teaching, research, and service ratios? Well, if it is clearly mentioned in the job advertisement, then you don't need to ask. Otherwise, you ask what is the ratio between teaching and research? What is the load balance between teaching and research and service? How many classes credits to teach per semester or per year? Again, if it is clearly mentioned in the job advertisement, you should not ask this question. What is the average class size, number of students per class? So you ask this question both for undergraduate and for graduate classes. How many graduate students in total in that department? Number of total students in that department or university. Is there teaching or research opportunity in summer? That's a good question to ask. So what will you do? What are the summer activities? What resources are provided available to initiate student research? Is there any support for undergraduate research activities? Is there any support for TA or RA? So those are the questions you can ask for the phone interviews. So once you are selected for the on-site interview, then you have to prepare for other questions you will ask. Then you will ask all the details questions, and some other questions you should not ask in there too. We will talk about those as well. So do not ask about salaries. Well, it should not be any problem, but it's a norm, it's a culture that it's not good to ask about salaries. Keep the questions simple. Ask all other questions during on-campus interview. So what should you do after the phone interview? After interview, immediately note down the questions they ask. So you should have a file you should maintain for each interview. You should write down the questions they ask, and also note down what mistakes you did and what would be the better answer that you missed. Send thank you email to each interviewer within 24 hours. Do not be too late. So send the emails by thanking them for this interview and show your eagerness, show your interest for the